welcome back to Drive Home Reviews. One of the things that I want to try to use the summer for is to catch up on some of the films that, for one reason or another, I didn't get a chance to see in the theater. So I understand that for a lot of these reviews that are coming up, their day has already come and gone. People have said their piece. People have seen them. So I know that my opinion is not going to matter a whole lot. I'm very late to the party, but then again, you take a look at my number of views, you see that people don't normally care about what I have to say, even when the film is brand new. Except it turns out the surprisingly vocal amount of Love and Tyranny fans. Those people had quite a lot to say about my opinions. But at any rate, let's take a look at some of the things that passed me by while they were in the theater. And we start off with this film, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which I'm really sorry I missed because I had a blast with this film. And it's one of those films that by all logic should not work. It's a concept that is kind of very far out there, and the fact that you pull it off as well as they did is a testament not just to the actor, the main actor for whom it applies, but also the supporting cast, the writers, the director. There's just a lot of smart decisions that went into the making of this movie to make it as entertaining as they did. So you probably already know the story. A exaggerated or somewhat exaggerated film version of Nicolas Cage's everyday persona is low on money at a low point in his career, and he gets an invitation to appear at this wealthy man's birthday party. This gentleman is under surveillance by the CIA. They recruit Nicolas Cage to go in and try to find a kidnapped girl who supposedly is on the compound somewhere, and wackiness ensues. I have to say that one of the first things that really jumps out at me about this movie is I think how underappreciated Nicolas Cage really was until this film came out, and he really steered into the skid again of that of his perceived real life persona. He's a guy who had been painted as this wacko because he always played crazy characters, or he did just every movie that came along. He spent a lot of money, and I've never quite understood why people cared so much about these aspects of his personality. Yeah, he made a lot of movies, and we can discuss, the varying quality of them, but the guy likes to work. He likes doing his job. That never really bothered me, especially when you consider that he is in such a wide variety of films. It's very rarely the same thing twice, and I really respect that. And he excuse me, he spends money a bit unwisely, but in the grand scheme of things, the whole world was just entranced by a toxic relationship of two celebrities to such a point where the concept that one of them deliberately took a shit in their bed was considered a national talking point. I don't think spending a lot of money on comic books is really that bad of a vice when we get right down to it. But it is true that Nicolas Cage is kind of a bizarre Hollywood personality. Just in his choice of roles, his acting style, his energy, there's just a very bizarre nature to him. I don't know if he really is that, let's use the term weird, in real life, but it's easy to see how people kind of label him as that. And what I madly respect in this is that he is aware of that, and he is turning right into that skid. I have a lot of respect for actors or any public persona that is aware of how they are seen by the public and decides, I'm gonna just play into that. I'm not gonna try to downplay it. I'm not gonna fight it. I can poke fun at myself. A few years back, the cast of Beverly Hills 90210 did a reunion show simply called 90210, where they all played exaggerated versions of themselves. And I gotta give it to all of them, especially Tori Spelling, just how much they were willing to kind of take on the chin and how much they were able to laugh at themselves. And Nick Cage is very much in that camp of someone who just says, all right, fine, this is what I'm seen as, let's just see, okay, let me just play that to the hilt, because he doesn't know how to do anything any other way. He plays everything to the hilt, and it's beautiful. And I think where the real talent of this comes in is you have to give it to him as an actor, but I think you also have to applaud the screenplay and the director for knowing exactly how far to push it and when to pull back. This film is on a nice, slow burn. Obviously, it's very meta, as one of the major plot points is Nicolas Cage and this rich gentleman played by Pedro Pascal, is that they're trying to write a movie together, and they're having debates about what the movie should be, that it should be a complicated, character study, a look at the friendship between two men and all of this, and they get into an argument about, Nick Cage wanting it to suddenly take an action movie direction, and he's saying no, it's so obviously the movie we're watching is very much a meta reflection of the movie that's happening, right? So the movie is on a very, very slow burn from one point to the next, and it takes a lot of skill to do that without having it veer too far into unbelievable territory. This film is just unbelievable enough that it's funny, so that when this film about an eccentric actor visiting the ultimate fanboy on an island suddenly turns into a kidnapping, rescue mission in disguise, chase scene, machine guns blazing, action film, the transition seems natural, and like that was, of course, the direction this was gonna go. And so again, that's a lot on Nicolas Cage, but it's a lot on the very skilled directing and the very skilled writing of it. I also have to say the rest of the cast is phenomenal, but special attention needs to be given to Pedro Pascal, who is the other half of this movie. While Nicolas Cage and his persona are the main focus, it needs someone to play off of and someone to balance. And they made a terrific choice here, because Pedro Pascal is kind of a modern day Nicolas Cage, not so much in how much stuff he does, but the variety of things that he does and the way he can morph himself depending on what role he's playing. I mean, you look at his filmography, it is a cavalcade and smorgasbord of various roles. And he and Nicolas Cage, the whole film rests on this buddy comedy, on this relationship and bond between these two characters, and they play off each other excellently. Like, it is a perfect pairing. And Pablo has to, within the span of a few scenes, make you laugh at him, make you sympathize with him, make you afraid of him, make you curious about him, make you doubt him. And there's just a lot of flavors to this character, and he does it all, once again, very seamlessly. It's that old adage of he makes it look easy. He makes the acting in this look easy. What I also really like from a storytelling standpoint, and I've mentioned this a number of times, I mentioned this when I reviewed Ready Player One, and I've mentioned it several times when reviewing any kind of nostalgic property, is that one of the big pitfalls that a story or something that is dealing with nostalgia or fandom of any kind can fall into is not understanding or respecting why someone is a fan of something or someone, and just kind of playing it off for a laugh. And what I like is that it's a very brief scene. It's a very brief monologue that he has, wherein we learn why he is such a huge Nicolas Cage fan and why the films of Nicolas Cage and the on-screen personas of Nicolas Cage, why they mean so much to him. And it's done very well. Again, I've always said that these things don't require a lot. Sometimes it's just a line that you need or a moment that needs to happen. You don't have to stop the film dead to explain. You just need something in there so that we understand why this thing is so important to this character, and they give us that. I was very happy about that, and I liked the explanation, and it worked really, really well. So, again, this is just one of those films where it feels like everybody involved sat down, went over everything in it, and said, what is the smartest thing we can do here? And did that. And the result is a very fun, very funny, of course, the scene where they drop LSD and think someone's spying on them, and they're running around all paranoid. Yeah, that moment is as funny as it seems in the trailers. It's one of those ones that doesn't let you down. So yeah, this movie just works, and it as improbable as it seems, because it's one of those films that, from the premise and from the first trailer I saw, it's like, this shouldn't work, but does. If I had any quibbles with this film, I think there are a few small ones. While yes, kind of making fun of and Nicolas Cage dealing with the consequences of his eccentric persona are at the center of it. It does come off, especially in the beginning, a bit too much, a bit sycophantic in places, past the point of the way it should be to get the theme of the movie across, and more in line with an episode of Baywatch, when David Hasselhoff was the executive producer, and of course everybody had to spend the entire episode talking about how great Mitch is, regardless of when he's on screen or not. It does kind of veer into that at some points, and the reason I think that sticks out to me is because the Pedro Pascal character is supposed to be that sycophantic fan. Having other characters be that sycophantic, or the film itself be that sycophantic, even if it's just in a few spots, takes us out of the realm of an actor having fun with his public persona and turns it more into a vanity project. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's there, and it's something that's noticeable. The other thing I think they could have done, this isn't necessarily a negative, it's just a thought, something that they could have done with this, is they do a wonderful job of, as the film kind of progresses and the situation evolves from, almost like one of those Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Big Lebowski kind of druggy looking films. It kind of morphs into action film. It has character film. Like, it seems like the lighting, the camera work shifts very slightly as the film itself evolves, so that we know that we're watching something very, very different as it becomes something very, very different. And I think that's good. I think they could have pushed it a little bit further, because Nicolas Cage also has done, again, he's done a lot of films. He's done lighthearted comedies. He's done a lot of family films. And I think they could have pushed the visual aspects of this just a little bit to help illustrate that. I think they did it, and it's not something I'd want them to do to such an extent where it becomes incredibly noticeable, but I think they could have done it a little bit more. Who knows? Maybe they did, and upon further viewings, I'll pick up on some of that, but I don't know. I think you could have had a little bit more fun visually with the movie. But those are quibbles. Those are tiny points. On the whole, I really enjoyed this movie, and I did not think I was going to enjoy this movie. I laughed with it. I thought the emotional moments actually landed, and I think it really is I don't want to say it's a reintroduction or a coming out party or a celebration of Nicolas Cage, but I think it is a movie that is going to make people look at him a little differently and acknowledge that, yeah, this guy actually is a really, really, really good actor, and he's not just a meme. He's not just, oh, the bees, or, you know, all those crazy faces he did for Face Off. You know, he's more than that. You know, he is that, and he acknowledges that, and he loves that, but that's not all he is. He actually deserves all the praise he gets and all the work he has done. I had a really great time with this film, and I look forward to watching it again and having a great time with it again. It's just a fun, really well thought out movie. So that's my critique. So final grade for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, I'm going a solid A on this one. Solid A. And a lot of that goes to the fact that it was just very surprising. It was a breath of fresh air and a fun diversion, and I had a great time with it, and I highly recommend you check it out, and hopefully you'll have a great time with it too. And if you don't, I can understand why. I get why some people may not dig this film as much as I do, but I did dig it. So there it is, A for this one. Go check it out. Was a wonderful surprise this year. All right, so thank you very much. So one missed film down, a couple more to go. Thank you for joining me. We'll be back, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.